Good morning, everybody. Let's see, is everything working properly? Looks like it might be. Alright then, let's go. Right, did everybody have a nice weekend? I had a nice weekend, quite relaxing. I got halfway through Saturday though, and then one of my neighbours came along and said, your moped's moved. And the bloody kids have been trying to steal it right in front of my house. Unbelievable. Unbelievable, I'm telling you. What can you do? So then the rest of my Saturday was spent fixing the moped that they broke. Bloody kids. Right, yes, got to do a police report at some point as well. Probably might do that this afternoon, who knows. Anyway, life and stuff getting in the way of software development, you know. What are you supposed to do, eh? What are you supposed to do? Okay, so what are we doing? What did we do? What was the last thing we did on Friday? Fixing some stuff we did. Let's have a look. So, let's have a look. What did we do on Friday? Friday. 16th, yeah. Oh, so we poked around with some chat GPT stuff and to try and find some solutions on Saturday, yeah. That was what I got done in the morning. So if you remember, we had the project option, right, for this command line, and we had some code that basically said if you've got a project, then great, use it. If you haven't got the project, then tell them that the project name is required. And I tried to do this using clap like before, but the documentation when you're doing that kind of thing with clap using clap derive wasn't particularly great. So I tried for a couple of hours trying to work it out, and it didn't work. And then maybe it was on Saturday or Friday evening, Quick Flash asked me whether I used ChatGPT for any of this, and I replied, not very much, no. And he pointed me at, he said he used a version of ChatGPT which has been trained on Rust. My previous experience with ChatGPT was that it was fine when you weren't using any libraries, but as soon as you tried to use the library, it would go and then suggest the wrong things because when it indexed the library, it was out of date and all this kind of thing. So it wasn't very good when I used it previously. But there's a couple of other Rust-trained LLMs that are out there. One of which I tried. The one that I tried was this Safari one. And I asked it, how do you make project required argument and so on. Do I have the log? I think I saved the log. Yeah. Let me bring up the log, and you guys can see how we used it. Yeah. Here we go. So I said, given the code below, how can you make project required, but only when command is given? Right, and I gave it a little snippet of the code that we were using. So we've got the command, and we've got the project, and we want this, but only when we've got a command. And there's a command, add a PCB, right? And then the first one was like, well, you know, duplicate project everywhere. You can implement custom validation logic. That was it. I'm like, I don't want to use custom validation logic. And then it's got like this, you know, custom validation stuff. I'm just like, no. Right. So I'm like, okay, how can you do it using clap derive without you using derive macros instead of using custom validation logic? So it tried again, and it said, do this, like, do it like this. I'm like, you know, wait, project is required, where was it? Oh, it requires if. It said add this. So I'm like, okay, well, you know, that was similar to what I tried before. So I tried it, and of course, you know, it compiles, but it doesn't actually work when you run it. It came up with an error. The argument or group does not exist. So I told Mr. ChatGPT that. Mrs. ChatGPT, you're correct. The requires if doesn't work with subcommands. It's like, well, why did you suggest it in the first place? But okay, moving on. So then it said, do this. And it basically said, put a project in every single one. I'm like, no, I specifically don't want to do that. So I asked it again, how can you achieve without putting projects in any subcommand? And then finally, it came up with the answer that I was trying to find in the documentation, using these groups, right? And the syntax for this, yeah, never come up with that in a million years by yourself, I don't think. Okay, maybe a million years, but okay. And then I asked to improve it by making a command required as well. And then what we ended up with is this, and this is non-optional, and this is optional, and this does indeed work, right? And then if we look back at the code, we can see in the tests that I had to change. Let's move this out of the way. It now has this little block like this in each of these. It says the project name is required, and this is the same for all of these, and that is what I wanted. Whew. It got there. So yeah, it was helpful, but it took a bit of prompting and futzing around with. But it did indeed work. So I told it that works. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, bit of AI assistance. Who knew? Who knew? So yeah, when I get stuck in the future, I might use that one a little bit more to see if it can get us unstuck from things where you go round in circles all day long. Because those challenges aren't the fun part of this. All right. So that was the project thing, and a bit of ChatGPT. Yeah, I also had the list of stuff that we were trying to look at the other day with the dog fooding list, and one of the things was review the use of equals, because when I was adding arguments on a command line, and one of the arguments was a path, I couldn't auto-complete the path by pressing the tab key. It would just go no. So I had to move the cursor to the back of the path, put a space there, auto-complete the rest of the path, because I ain't typing it in, and then go back once I've got the right path and remove the space there between the equals and the path. And clap lets you use arguments with an equals or without an equals. And I went back and reviewed that decision after the path autocomplete thing and removed all the equals from everything. So equals is no longer required. However, that had a bit of an impact on some of the test code. The production code was fine. But it kind of broke the tests quite a bit. So, because what we had, let me find these arguments somewhere. Yeah, like here's one for instance. So we've got this arg, and it's assigned a string, and this string, when it's formatted, doesn't contain any spaces, right? So you're like, fine. So then what happens with this arg? It basically gets added to the list of args. And you think, yeah, that's fine. But the problem is, if you start removing the equals, now there's a space in it. And when you're running commands using this command runner, each of the arguments that you have to give to this, you have to provide in the array or slice, must be separate arguments. So the argument, like dash dash name, and then the name of the project, right, have to be separate. Whereas before they were contained together, where they were one thing with an equals in the middle. So now we have to do some pre-processing where we basically get this list of arguments, which may or may not contain spaces, and then make sure that if a space is in one of those things, then we just make a new vector that contains everything without spaces in it. And that worked apart from there was a, I had dash name equals and then the name of something like as an argument. I wanted this as an argument, but that no longer worked. So I'm just like, whatever, I'll call it variant1 instead. It's fine. But yeah, that impacted quite a lot. It impacted every single test that runs a command, pretty much, in both the variant builder and the assembly. The variant builder and the planner. And I had to go in and update all the examples and everything. Yeah, it's right, faff. And then I had to create some common code to do the splitting and all that kind of stuff. So that got done. Right. Next. Yeah. Yeah, this got done as well. Which is the messaging when the project command isn't used. But this got fixed by the making project required as well. Showing the names of artifacts that we used. So in the list we had show the names of artifacts as a thing that needed doing. That got done. That works now. I cleaned up some dependencies because some of the dependencies for the CLI side of things had made their way into the default features and not only the CLI feature, so that got cleaned up. I added support for reading arguments from files. It turned out this was quite interesting, but it was easy once I'd figured out what to actually do. So normally when you're running a command line, you go, where's my CLI? There's one. You go, I don't know, where's it? Target, debug, planner, right? Normally you go add PCB, blah 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 blah, and you start doing stuff, right? But with arg file, you can go and you give it the name of a path. Actually, let's use the variant builder because it's a better example. Build variant default, and then you go .args, right? And it doesn't work because the file's not there, right? So instead of having all the args, let me find my project file again. Not that one. Let's try that again. This one. No, not that one. This one. Projects. This. Right. We've got our MD file here. Right. So we've got all these arguments here. These ones. And we can take all those and we can create a file. Let's just go and use scratch file temporarily from selection. Sure. And the idea is that, the arg file it'll be interesting to see what happens now that I've taken the equals out of this. We're going to see what happens because we might find some more pain. I'm just going to put equals back in here now for this demonstration. And then can I save the file somewhere? Who knows how to save a scratch file to an actual file? Save as? No. Export files or selections to HTML? No. Really? Is there no way to do this? My mind boggles sometimes. Like, it's the amount of dumbness. Like, you just want to go save as. You create a scratch file. You don't care what the name is to start with, and then you go save as. Anyway. Maybe I'm just failing to understand it, or it doesn't work like my brain wants to make it work. But anyway, here we go. So we're gonna. What is this file? Why is it MD? Okay, fine. We'll just move it here. Close it from there, and then we're gonna rename it to this. .args on the end like this, right? Yes. And then we go back to our CLI. And now it reads all the arguments from a file, which is useful. Trust me, it's useful. I was doing this previously when I was using my PnP convert, and then I would have like one file with some settings in it and another file with some other settings in it. Because what you can do, you can have common settings in one place, in one file, and then other arguments specified in another file, and then you can mix and match them, and you can version control them, and all the rest of it. Right? So it's quite useful. So anyway, yeah, arg file support is added, and in the arg files, you can include more arg files, and you can include multiple arg files on the command line as you run it by using @ more than once. So I'm just going to copy this from here, or let's do it again. There we go. Righto, so that got done. And the last thing that got done on Friday was add support for setting the verbosity level. So now you can go --VBB like this or something. Oh, not there. Oops. One of these days I'll get the argument right, honestly. I'm pretty sure that was right. Oh, it's because it's not in the right place. Okay, we'll just run it normally so that you can see the behaviour. Right. Why is it not working? Okay. I might be failing to remember how to do it. Hold on. Did we do it for Variant Builder? We did do it for Variant Builder. Yeah, what's the problem? You're supposed to be able to specify it multiple times in the short form and the long form to change the logging level. Which we did here, because you can see that it spat out loads of logging information, whereas before it did not, right? So it is working, but it's not accepting the short format of the argument for some reason. And then you get even more stuff, you know, trace level. But you're supposed to be able to go, oh wait, it's dash. It's a single dash, isn't it? There we go, right, okay. It was just me failing to remember how to do it. So now you can specify -VVV to put it in trace mode, and it defaults to info mode by default. And you can also make it be less verbose by using the Q option. And that works on the variant builder as well as the planner tool. So that's nice. That got done as well, yeah. So, okay, I think we're done with the recap. But quite a lot of stuff happened. But I just want to keep you guys up to date with sort of all these workflow improvements that we're making based on our sort of dog fooding exercise last week. Right. Okay, what's next? Yeah, that's where we got to on Friday, yeah. And then, yeah, and any other stuff I've already talked about. So, what are we doing today? What are we doing? Let's look at the list. So, this was our list. I ordered these, I changed the order of these because this is the order I feel like doing them in. If anyone wants, by the way, if anyone wants me to work on something specific in this thing, then just make a comment in the chat or leave a comment on the video, and maybe we can do it. We can have a look. Righto. So showing the phase status in the report. That's what we're going to do. Let's see if we can work out what to do. We've got some tests somewhere. Here we are. Planner. Let's make sure all the tests work, and also check the status. Yeah. Cool. So yeah, all the tests pass. We're all good. So, no Wally today. I've got my green mug. All right. Let's have a look at the structure. Oh yeah, I also added the little ChatGPT into my IDE. I should probably pull this down here as well. There's like AI-tastic in here now, look. And let me put that there because that's one I use most. Right. I don't like that this one's green. It's like there's a theme for the UI, and these developers just went, no, we're going to ignore you. Screw your theme. I'm just having a green icon, and you're going to... Can we have some consistency, please, developers? Thank you very much. Right. Right. Show. Blah, 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 blah. Generate artifacts. Here we go. So generate artifacts is what we use to create the report. And the report is what we need to have like some status in. So we can have like an overall status, right? And then we can have a phase status as well. So let's see if we can do that. The overall status would be like incomplete or completed as a bare minimum, right? And the same goes for the phases. So what makes a completed project? What makes a project completed, I guess, is the question we have to answer. All the placements for all the phases being placed. Sounds good. So what makes a phase complete? All the placements for a phase being complete. Okay, good. Fine. Should be easy enough then. So, our project is going to have a status. And it's going to be incomplete in this thingy that we're doing. right? Sure. Do we want to? I mean, we'll just use a string reference here. It's fine. And then we've got a phase overview, and we've got a phase name, we've got a process, and we've got a whatever. So should we add status as the second thing here? And let's say incomplete. Right. Let's make that happen. And then at some point we're going to need to make it so that it says complete. Right. Oh, and if anybody's wondering, I'm moving around quite a lot today because I'm sitting on a giant furry ball. You used to be able to get them from furryballs.com, but you can't anymore. You used to be able to. Or it might have been .co.uk. It was on this. Furry balls. Yeah, furry balls there. But dissolved in 2011. So you can't get them anymore. But they were good. You used to be able to get exercise ball covers like with cow print on them. They were just really good. I don't know what happened to them or why it went bankrupt. Maybe someone got greedy. I don't know, but they were great. Anyway, the idea behind it is sitting on an exercise ball instead of a chair is that you end up moving around a bit more, which of course may not work well for streaming, so let me know if it's annoying or not. Right. Okay, so we're doing this with status, with name. Yeah, go on then. And it's going to be like this. It's going to be well exciting. Copy and paste in. Right. So we've got a name. Let's not make it optional. Oh no, it needs to be optional for the purposes of the builder. Fine. Yeah. Okay. So somehow we've got this thing that builds a report. Who remembers where it was? Which builder? Project report. There's so many different types of builders and so on. I need to consolidate all the different approaches to all these builders. So yes, that should be it for that then, shouldn't it? Right. Okay. Because I was thinking of the project builder as opposed to the project report builder. Right, fine. Okay. Let's see what happens if we try and run it. Well, need a bit of two-stringiness. Let's go. Okay. Right, so we've got our failing test now. This is great. And we should be able to see the difference. Here it is. And that's what we're trying to achieve. Like so. Okay, let's make it happen. So, bin planner. But we've got planning and then we've got this report thing. And in here, there is a report somewhere. Where is it? Here it is. Right. And until we have some other stuff to go in the status, we're just going to make it a string. But is it a string? Is it? I mean, it could be. I think it should be an enum though. So let's make it an enum. And let's say an enum with 2 variants. An incomplete is going to be the default. Okay, and then other enums are serialized like this. So we're going to make that happen. Project status. Oh, that was supposed to be an enum. I typed the word struct instead. Right. So why is it moaning? Right. Project status doesn't have a default. Well, it's true, it doesn't. Let's give it one then. What are we doing? Seems reasonable to be incomplete by default. Now what happens? Let's see. Yeah, not sure what's gonna be in here right now, because we're serializing some project things. So you know, there we go. Look, we've got a status. It's incomplete now. With the enums, we've been using Pascal case for them, so I think this should be like this now. Maybe. So now, what do we got? Cloak. Okay, so yeah, we're getting there. Alright, now let's do the phases. So we've got these phase overviews, and the phase overviews are going to have a status, and it's going to be a phase status. And this is going to look very similar to the other one. Oh, what am I doing? Enum. Right, so much so that we're going to copy these things. At some point there may be different statuses for these things, and it's entirely probable that phases are going to have a different list of status to the project. So we're not going to use the same status for both of them right now. We could, but it's probably not a good idea. And we're going to do the same thing for this. There we go. Oh, this doesn't need default. Maybe we don't need this. Let's see. Probably going to have a missing field, yeah. How about that? This needs to be public. There we go. Oh my god, we've completed it. It's done. No. No. It's not done. Because, you know, we didn't actually check the status. So, what are we going to do about this? There's two ways to proceed here. One, make it so the project is complete in the tests, but I don't fancy that. Two is don't make it default to incomplete, right? And then you would have to write code to make it incomplete. So let's do that so that we have a failing test. Where did my bit of code go? Come on, there. So if we set it's complete by default, right? Just humour me here. And if we go back to our project and say this is complete by default, right? Now we've got a failing test, we can go and write some other code. Right? Because now it's going to say it's complete, but it's not complete. So we've got to make it check the phase statuses. Let's see if we can make that happen. So we've got a bit of code which generates a report somewhere. Project report, generate report, this, right? And it iterates over the phases if it's not empty. And I guess if you had a project with no phases, it probably would actually be complete by default. But that still wouldn't make a lot of sense though. I don't know. So I suppose, should we have a bit of code which just determines the status, like independently from all the other code that's already there? I'm kind of feeling that we should do that. Let's write that bit of code here. Let's say, I don't know, what do we want to say? We need to go report dot status is project status incomplete until otherwise. Right. Mutating it, yeah. I suppose you could do this in a block, really, or do it in a function later on. What happened there? Alright, great. And then I suppose we can go for phase in project.phases. We've got these phase overviews over here, you see. It's like... It's just... no. We're already doing it. Right, so we've got this phase status. We've got to work this out. I suppose if we go project dot, and then we've got was it in placements? Oh, let's use fold again. We love a bit of fold, don't we? And let's move this thing to here. And then it's going to take the phase status and something, which is going to be the object path. And the placement status, yeah, like this, right? And then in this we need to return the status, because that's how fold works. That's twice my ID has failed to autocomplete the word status. Oh, I'm missing a bracket. There we go. Right. So it's going to be... I don't know. I think we need to match on the status and the placement status dot phase. And we're going to say it's complete until we find out that it's not. And then we're going to say, well, okay, let's not do it like that. If the placements thing is the same as the phase that we're currently iterating over, yeah, then match the status. No, not that status. Well, if it's incomplete, there's nothing else to do, right? Because we don't need to check it. I don't know. We might be getting ahead of ourselves a bit here. Let's check the... Oh yeah, that's what we need to check. We need the status and the placement state dot placed flag. Placement status. Right. And then we've got this. So if it's placed and the phase status is, let's say complete. Let's do complete and not placed, right? Then we're going to set the status to be incomplete. which means this needs to be mutable. But we can go status is and then whatever. Can you go and just return it if it's true? But I don't know. There's like so many different ways of writing this bit of code in Rust. I don't know which one to choose and why I should choose it, because I could just use a simple if statement here. Oh, this is supposed to be phase status. There we go. Couldn't see the wood from the trees. This needs to be a reference to the reference. I think. What is this? This is a reference. Oh. Expected option reference. Why? Oh. Right. Well. Okay. So a placement might not have been assigned a phase. So I suppose we have to go if let some placement phase, and then we assign that to this. Can we go? Can you do this here? I don't know whether you can do this here. Let's find out. You've got two ifs, and can you do an and here? No, you can't do that there. Nah. It'd be interesting. Probably not a good idea. Okay. Then do the thing that we were trying to do earlier, right, which was that. Right, and what's the problem here? Yeah. I don't think we need to do any of this. That's probably just an error. Right, there we go. Otherwise, you say the status is a status. But then this is now. Oh, that's already a reference. Right. Okay. Let's see what happens. Oh, we haven't done anything with this status. We need to do that somewhere. Let's deal with that. Let's deal with that here. Well, okay, let's go let mut all phases complete, and we'll say true until it's not. So I suppose we could do that flag here as well, right? Semicolon. And then we could do something else. We can do something with this. Let's try using this. Let's go if whatever, then project, no, report status is project we're going to deduplicate the assignment by using a match statement, just if someone was wondering what I just did then and why. All phases complete. We're basically just mapping a boolean to the two states at the moment. There may be other reasons to set other states in the future, but this is fine for now. Okay, fine. Right, let's see what happens. Because I don't remember where we got to. Let's have a look. That's interesting. How could it fail? I mean, there's a few different ways that it can be a bit funky. Like not having any placements, for instance, and things like that. So I feel like changing those things back to their sensible defaults might be the way to go before we butts around with this. We've got incomplete. And this, we do it this bit that way around, yeah. Okay. Quick look, make sure we're still on the same dealing with the same failures. So it says the bottom one is complete. Is that true? So why would that be complete? If a phase has been defined and no placements are assigned to that phase, then I guess it's complete by default. And I think that is what the case is here. So as we go into this, we've got some placements, and J1 is the only thing that's on the bottom, but it's not been assigned to a phase. So that phase, therefore, is complete in this particular scenario. So our test is wrong. Which does seem a little bit weird, but you know, there will be an issue that's generated as well, as in a phase with no placements. Well, maybe there's not, because phases can be used for more than just placements, like solder pasting, for instance. So maybe it should depend on the process whether an issue is generated. Because if you had a sort of like manual placement thing and then didn't assign any components to it, then that should probably be counted as an issue. But the PnP and the manual things haven't really been assigned any sort of like behavior, really. Which they probably do need at some point, because PnP is a placement phase, and currently manual is a placement phase as well, right? But if I then went solder paste as a process, then it wouldn't be it wouldn't have any placements. It would just have sort of like locations to stick stuff, and it would probably be a different issue that you would generate. Like, it would be silly to have a solder paste operation without any solder paste extrusions. Do you extrude solder paste? You squeeze it out, I suppose. I don't know. It'd be a bit weird to have one of those without any extrusions, and it'd be weird, or similarly weird, to have a placement phase without any actual placements. Let's write that down. Let's say generate issues for placement phases if the phase has no placements. And then, as a reminder, both PnP and cursor. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Come back to that. Okay, let's run it again. Deal with the unused variable. Right. Some white space. A bit more white space. There we go. So, did the test pass then? The test is passing. Okay, so we've got a phase status and a project status. Happy days. Let's run it on the real world example, just to see what happens. Not that one. Trying to find my files. This. That's what I'm after. So we've got a command to generate artifacts here. A real world scenario. Okay. So this has got a report now. And we can have a look at this report. And we've got status, incomplete, phase name, top, incomplete, bottom, incomplete. That's what we want to see. Cool. All right, great. Right, it's incomplete. But why? That would be the next question the user would ask, wouldn't they? But why? Why? Don't make me look through the list of placements to see how many I've got left to do. Should we have a... I don't know. We've already got the list of ref deses, user interface, blah blah blah. Just a phase summary, sort of like probably necessary next. Okay, let's do a commit though. So what do? We added a status. It says it's incomplete. Happy days. You updated the builder so it's got some strings in it. Great. And then we updated the test so that it says everything is complete until they're not. And then it goes over the phases to do other things, to create the phase overviews. And part of creating the phase overview is to add the status. And the status is created by iterating over the project's placements, finding the ones that are for this phase that we're currently iterating over. If that phase is not placed and the phase status is marked as complete, which it is by default, then say it's incomplete. And that does it. Yeah, okay, cool. Okay, so what do? We add project and phase statuses, status elements. Problem solved. Stupid English language. Add project and phase status elements to the report. There. And now we don't have to worry about the plural of statuses. Alright, great. Done. Right. But our to-do thing said placements total and placed blah 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 placements. So more information in the status thing? I think if the phase is a placement type of phase, then it should summarize the amount of placements. Right, so let's get funky. Let's get funky with it. So if we were to say, when we're generating the artifacts, we've got the phase overview. Perhaps it should have something like a phase phase operation. I mean, I suppose we could combine it with this status thing here, right? Like, complete or incomplete, you know, that's one thing. Which is sort of currently like a boolean. But do we want, like, do we want to do this? Right, which then obviously wouldn't be the same for all of the different types of phase operations that you could have. Right. Or do we want to go operation overview? And then have some detail in that. Because we've got the operations, right? So it might make sense to do that. Let's make it do that. I like that idea. And then this is what we're going to do. Operations overview? Operation overviews? Operations overview? No, it's operations overview, isn't it? Because there's only one of each. One for, is it phase overview? Phase has got multiple operations and each one of those has an overview. Operations overview we're going to go with. Well, that was non-trivial. Okay, then we're going to have a test. Placement. Well, is this going to be like an enum that implements like, or is it just going to be some object that implements like display in the production code? I mean, don't know. Let's just make it an enum to start with. So this is going to be a test. Phase, right, test, phase operation overview of type placement with a with a message. So let's say 2 of 3 placements placed. Now, you see this one. I'm not even sure that this should be complete at this point. But anyway, we're going to say 0 of 0 placements placed, because that's the reality that we're dealing with here. And then later we can decide whether we shouldn't even have that, or we should have something else. I don't know. But that's what it is at the moment. So we need this. Which is going to be a struct. And it's going to have... No, it's going to be an enum, sorry. And we're going to have a placement. And it's going to have a message. right? And that's it for now. Test phase operation overview. Yeah. We can import that, and now, yeah, we can add that to this, right? Pub, this one, that one, a vector of these. No, not those. These. Like that. There we go. Oh, we're missing a. No, we're not. What's the problem? Well, okay, yeah, fine. Sure. Oh dear. Alright, fine. Well, I guess there should actually be another operation here, shouldn't there? Because they were like, the things you've got to do for this phase is 1, prepare the PCBs, and 2, place the components. Ah, that's interesting. Okay, let's add that to the list. Yeah. Generate. Placement operation for placement phases. Yeah. Yeah, no, this is true. Let's have a look at this. So we got let's just have that simply for now. Oops, daisy. Where's the comma supposed to be? There. Right. It needs that. And this one has one of those as well. You get some PCBs together, you put, and you place components on it. And I suppose, you know, you could do like wave solder and reflow or solder or whatever. Let's say let's get specific. Let's get specific here. Place components, reflow, right? But for the bottom one, right, this is manual soldering, and you do these one at a time. So let's just be specific. Right, because this is how you normally do things. Okay. Right. So. Let's think about this for a moment. Phase operation overview. Right, should there be one of these things for each of the phase operations? That's what I'm thinking. With the same index, right? Or let's say instead of going placement here, we'll go place components like this. It doesn't make sense to have the same process more than once, same operation more than once. And then these sort of map to like these, right? Interesting. Okay. That's probably enough for now, without getting too silly with it. So the idea is we're adding operation overviews, and there's obviously going to be some state for each phase operation, right? But I don't think in the project itself we have this concept of operations. So this is gonna impact things somewhat to do this. Yeah. Do we want to do this yet? I kind of do. While we're in this early stage of getting this workflow working and working out where all this info is. Okay. Okay, what happens if we run it? Let's see what we're looking for. It should say a nice sort of structured thing now. Operations overview, place components, blah 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 blah. Okay, we're good. And then phase specification has got place components and reflow components. And then manually solder components. Am I thinking about this wrong? No, it's right for the phase. A phase can have sort of many steps, essentially. I think it's right. I think it's right. I think it's right. Phase operations seems to make some sense to me. So, how are we going to make this happen? Right. Let's look at a phase for a moment. Well, we've got this process. So a phase uses a process, right? Does it use more than one process is what I'm thinking about. Or do you define your process, right, as having various operations? That actually makes a little bit of sense, the last thing I said. Okay, so see, I've got this method here, is PnP, right? I don't think it belongs here, right? So essentially what we've got this process name, but attached with, which refers to a particular process, and the process has multiple different operations, right? So this process here really is a process name, right? And then you should be able to go over a list of processes each of which have a process name. And if it's the same, then you've got your information about the definition of the process, which would have, the flags like it's a pick and place one. We could use an enum for this, but I'm not entirely sure that would be right. Let's see where is PnP is used for the moment. It's only used here because there's one really specific thing which we use it for, and it's the only place we use it is when we're assigning feeders to loadout items. It's an error to attach the same feeder to multiple loadout items if it's a PnP. Let's see where process is used for a moment. Many places. So, I'm thinking, should this process have an isPnP flag, for instance? Should it have a name property? It currently has a name property, and that's the only thing it has. And it has a Boolean method which says you can ask it whether it's a PnP, and it does that by looking at the name. The implementation of that, I think, is wrong, but it's fine for now. Was fine for now. But I'm thinking that the process should have a name. It should have one or more flags, or like has field PnP set to true, for instance, instead of is PnP, right, to keep it flexible. and then also has a list of operations. Because at the moment, when we're generating the report, right, these operations are built dynamically. It doesn't look at the project and the phases to determine what operations there are. It should say, if there's placements, well then you need to get a PCB. Which PCBs do you need to get? And then it should get a list of PCBs, which is what it's doing here. And then it's saying, okay, now that I've got a list of PCBs, I'm going to say, then add this prepared PCBs phase operation with a list of PCBs. So I think this bit should be sort of like in a sort of make phase operations thing, and it should do that by looking at the process. Okay. Another way of doing it would be to go to manually hard code get, some method like get operations, and it could do it by looking at the name, and if the name was PnP, then return a list of operations, right? Again, that's hard coding it again. We could use an enum for this process, which could have the all the things in it for each different type of process. I'm not sure that makes too much sense. I think we're going to rejigger this. Okay, so what we're going to do first, because there's some rejiggering that needs to happen, is stash everything that we just did. And then we're going to poke this process first and see if we can make it different. Right, where's it used? It's used all over the place. So let's just see what happens and what compilation errors we get if we were to just simply do this. Right. Let's just delete. Should we delete this? I don't like this. Boolean arguments are shit, so I'm just going to delete the entire new method. And I'll keep that there for now, but I don't really like it. So we've got a fromster, which clearly is not going to work. Let's just delete these. Let's see where we get. So now it probably can derive display. Oh, no it can't. Let's make it show the name here. Is this not public? Yeah, no, that should be fine. We'll see what happens. Can you mix and match them like that? I don't know. Yeah, it's already a string, isn't it? Do we want to clone it? Yeah. Right. So now we've got this process. But this is no good, really. This needs to be a process name now. So yeah, we're going to borrow all this. It's sort of an arg thing. Let me think about this. Let's put it in CLI and just call it process arg. Let's be specific about that. Trying to remember where this is. Not sure whether we need that or not. Let's not derive anything until we know we need it. Right. This is definitely CLI land, so this is going to be process name arg. Right, so it needs clone. Right. Create phase. There should be an arg. Now, where we're creating a phase here, Right. Yeah. So this is where we need to get funky, I think. Because if the name is PnP, then we need to create a process with a PnP flag set. And if the name is manual, then we need to create a process without the manual flag set, right? So we need to go from a process name to a process, which was sort of like baked into the previous process, sort of like implementation before. It was, what's the word I'm looking for? It begins with I. Implicit. That's the one, isn't it? But now we need to be explicit. So let's say let's do it by convention. Okay. So let's go match, and we'll say process name. I suppose something like this. And then if it's manual, then it's not. Right, and now it's explicit. And then we need to go to do. Or just go bail. Unknown process name. I suppose it's still one of these, isn't it? What do we need to do to fix this? I thought I already did that. So here, name is a string, which is fine. And then in process, and then in process we've got name. Right, so now we're explicit about the names of these things. And there's only two possible names that you can have, and anything else throws an error. Which is fine for now. You know, at some point in the future we could perhaps, you know, allow the user to configure their processes. But for now, this is probably sufficient. Right, so okay, let's see what happens now. Process name arg. I'm going to make this public. Right. Right, so we've got a cert process. A cert process is basically trying to go If the list of processes doesn't contain the process, then it's an unused process. Right. Okay. But this is a process name. Should this really be like this? Assert process. This is in CLI land, which means the planning has a dependency on CLI, which I don't really like. No. How about we go... I mean, let's assert process is only used by this, right? So instead of doing that there, let's pull this out. And just paste it here for a moment, and then maybe we'll put it back somewhere else later. I don't know, what are we going to do here? So we've got this process name arg, and we need to find the process for the given name. And then okay. So we need to go well, this is project.processes.iter bind. And we're going to go match. I suppose we could go, and we're going to iterate over all the processes, and then if there is one, something like this. But this doesn't make any sense now, this unused process error, because this is a string, really. Why is it complaining? Save. So we find one. We. Yeah. That gives us a Boolean. Oh, we're supposed to be saying none. This, I think we just need to map error here, don't we? Something like this. No, we don't have an error. Find gives us an option. Oh, I never remember all the different APIs. There's so many. Isn't it already a vector? Something like that, maybe? And then we get the process, but if it's not one of these, then you get an error. Something like that. Right, but we can't compare that to that. What are you supposed to do with an option? If the option is none. Oh, it's okay or, isn't it? Not map error. Map error you do on result objects, don't you? What about now? We're not supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be like that. Okay. That's better. So process here. Probably should be a reference here now. Okay. So why do we need it? Clone the vector here, probably okay. Right. We've got a mutable one. And we're passing the process to it. No, we're not. We're using the process, but we've got to mutate the project. So we probably need to clone the process here. There we go. Ooh, deal with the fallout of that now. Well, that was a complete failure here. Why? Okay, maybe it wasn't a complete failure. don't know. It's just got more detail there now. But does everything still work? How do all the things fail? Added process. Yeah. So it's got the details of the process here now. Right, so this probably isn't right anyway. Applicable processes should probably be a list of just the names. So this is something like, well, what is applicable processes? Now you see here, this is probably wrong. The part state shouldn't have a process. This should probably be having a process name, right? And therefore this should be called process name, and it probably should have all of these things on it, and also be in the process thing. And maybe this should be process name here. Let's try that. Can we just use into here? Can we use process name from stir instead? How about that? Right, this can't fail. It's a bit weird, this. But we'll try it. We don't have to keep it. Right, this should take a process name here. And then applicable processes takes that. Right, that's better. Add process to part, though, is going to be wrong right now. Process.name clone. And the process is a string, and this is in the report, yeah. Instead of dot clone, it should be toString. Okay. Now it doesn't know what this is because we moved it. But that's okay. Now it doesn't know what process name is, so I'll put that back in. Okay. So now it's trying to compare that, but it's already one of those now, so we don't need to do that. What do we do here? Can we do this? Seems a bit silly, but we'll try it like that. Okay. Then what are we doing here? Add process to part takes a process name. And a phase process has a name. But it should be a reference. Wait. But what does it want? Oh, it wants a copy of it. Yeah. It's that. It's .name.clone. There we go. That all looks okay. Right, so now we've got to fix this added process thing again. Part state applicable processes is the process name. That's actually okay. Well, it's not really though, is it? .map. Well, I don't know. Let's do it like this. There's always going to be at least one, so we're okay. Because you've inserted it now, right. Otherwise we couldn't put the leading bits on. Would I guess we could can we just take the thing and return the name? And then have the debug thing do that. something like that. I don't know. This one. There we go, that's better. So we got added process, part, manufacturer, connection manufacturer, MPN con. Applicable processes, yes. And then we've got, oh, we've got an extra bracket accidentally. Cool. Yeah, that's better. And now it's moaning because of that, but that's okay. We'll deal with that in a bit. But let's just see what other failures there are. This sort of seems okay mostly. And then we've I don't think the phase here I don't think the phase here should have this. So let's have a look where we define the project. There should be a phase name here, process name here. That's going to break some other things. But do we need a process? Ensure process. Now that I did all that, I'm not entirely sure. Because it doesn't use the process for anything else. Existing phase process, yeah. This should just be a process name. Right. Okay, now we have to look up I mean, it could be that you passed the wrong one in here. Let's have a look at this. Where's this used? Let's have a look for... Let's borrow that for a second. We'll probably extract it. Add process to it. First look at the phase and then look at the process for the phase. Huh. Now we can ask the process if it's PnP. There we go. And we'll put that back again. Okay. Okay. Yes. We're only getting a name from it, it's fine. Okay. That's fine. This is arguably better now anyway. Which one was this? 7. Oh. Seven. That's better. So it works apart from those differences again, which is good. This one apparently all works. Set the placement ordering. Again works only apart from that. That's good. Generating artifacts. Works. And then this one. Again works apart from that, which is good. Let's just review all the changes that we did, because there was quite a lot of to and fro in there. So we've changed the assertion there, that's fine. We've changed these assertions, that's fine. But what did we do in the production code? Because there was quite a lot going on there. So let's start with the process file. So we created a structure called process, which has got the details of the process. Right. And we introduced a new structure called process name. I'm wondering whether we should rename this process to process definition, but we don't do that with like part. It's not part definition. No, I don't fancy that. And this assert thing, we moved it into the other bit of code. So I'm sort of okay with that. I'm okay with this. What else happened here? So shows the process name. Same as it did before. Creating a phase, yada yada yada. And we've got a rename, that's fine. Created project with 2 default processes, yeah. Use the process name. Seems okay. That's just white space. Okay, we'll deal with the white space later. So a phase has a process name but not a process. That's an important distinction now. And a part state is made up of applicable processes for a part, but it's previously it was the process itself, but now it's the process name. That's also an important distinction. And then we've got the code here. This is the important change. So instead of looking at the process, the phases process, it looks at the process that's passed in. Right. It might be that we want to invert those, so the phase process, so that the phase does have a process, and the applicable processes or the used processes is just like the names of them. But then that wouldn't make any sense, because the phase processes which use the same names could have different properties on each phase but the same name, so it wouldn't work. So no, it's correct this way around. That's fine. Complicated. Okay. What happened here? Do we even use these? No. No, we don't use those anymore. Fine. Then in the planner, what have we got? And potentially we could refactor that. I think we should probably refactor that now. Well, let's do it as a second commit. So what are we doing? We are separate. the process behavior from its name. Right. Yeah. That feels about right. So if we go back, we still have to fix all the tests. Let's fix the tests now, and then do the refactor. Right. So the tests are bitching because the list of processes now contains the details of the process. It's got this extra flag thing here now. So it should be fairly easy in our project builder. Where we say with processes, we've got to be more specific here. So this is going to be PnP and true, and manual and false, right? Because that's how this builder works. Which, yes, is not ideal. And then we need to change this so that it builds something else. So previously it built an array of string values like this, but this is no good now. So it needs to return a map, and the array is going to contain objects. So it's an array, which is this. Right. Oops, that's supposed to be a colon. How'd you create a map again? Is it map new? Who remembers? Yeah. It's got to be mutable, and then you go map dot not that kind of map. Let's just borrow the same one because apparently this works. Yeah, I'll deal with that in a minute. And we're going to call this process map. Okay, and then in the process map we're going to insert and it's going to be a name, and it's going to be a value of type string based on a name, and it is PnP field. right? And then it's going to have isPnP. And this is going to be a Boolean. Built from that. I think that's what we need. Right, but we're going to get some other fails. Probably that's the wrong one. Right. But this needs to be built from a string. And so does this. And so does this. Now we need to dereference the thing. Can we go like this here? No. It's fine. What are we doing here? Oh, that's supposed to be no semicolon there. There we go, that's better. So now, where we've got this with processes, the first one of these has now got the right information on it. And all these other ones need to be updated. If it says PnP manual, it's now got more information. Yeah, sequence testing like this is a bit repetitive. I know. I know. Okay, test pass. All right. Okay, so we can go back to that. And the only thing we changed was the test. Right, good. So we can amend that. And we're good. Now we can go back to the CLI code in the planner and deal with that refactoring that we need to do. So it's essentially this bit. That we need to futz with. Well, I guess this bit perhaps. Find process. And again, I'm just going to put project find process on it to start with, because we pass it the project. Or let's say phase process. Right. And now, is that the same as the other one? So we go process and we give it the project, but we don't have a. No, it's not quite the same. Let's try and make it the same. So if we go phase.process, which is a process name, Yes, that's right, yeah. And then we've got process name here. That's good. And we'll call it find again, because that's what I originally thought it was going to be called. Alright, and then we go back to the other one, and we're going to see if it's the same now. Let's just take a reference. Yep. Yep. And then we clone it. Should be the same now, right? Alright, there should be a reference here. Right. And the result is something that comes from the project. Yep. Cool. There we go. Now we can move this into the project. And I feel like just sticking it at the end at the moment. It could probably be part of the project and then have a new impl layer. Wait. Yeah, it will be in a minute. Right, and now if we say impl, can it be lighted? Yeah, I think it can. It's probably okay putting it inside this project implementation that we've got up here. For some reason I thought it wouldn't be okay. But it probably is fine to put it there. I don't know whether we need the lifetime there. Yeah, we can just elide it. This is never used now, so we should be able to go something like project dot find process, right? Let's see if one of them works. Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah. That's a bit more ergonomic. There we go. Alright, cool. Fixed. Yeehaw. Let's do that too. All these changes can be part of this other thing. There we go. So deduplicate finding a phases process. Lovely. Alright, awesome. Why were we doing all that again? Ah, I remember. It was because we stashed some code. Right. What were we doing? Who remembers? Let's run the test and find out. So what we said was... right. What we said was we got this notion of operations, right, for a phase, right? But now we have somewhere to put the list of operations. Right. The place where we put these list of operations is now going to be in the process and not the process name. So, is PnP. This is PnP is still in the wrong place, right? But imagine if you had an operation and one of the operations was place components, right? And it knew that you were going to use a pick and place machine to do it, right? And the operation was place components. And that operation had the flag on it to say that it's done by a pick and place machine. Or just the fact that it's got one of those particular types. That's an interesting thought. So let's think about this for a moment. If we didn't have this is PnP implemented like this and this boolean like this, and I still don't like this boolean. If we add operations right, and we had a vector of these process operations, right, and the process operation and I think this is where we can start to get specific, because we don't want to be specific in the different types of operations or their sort of flexibility of them, right? But operations are operations are operations, I think. Because a process is made by multiple operations. Yes. Right. But the operations themselves don't change very much. So if we said we've got a process operation which is PnP, let's be really specific. Automated PnP. manual PNP. Right. Load PCBs. Reflow. We had reflow somewhere, didn't we? Reflow components. And we had manually weird. Let's say let's see what this looks like. These all need to be serialized out. Oh dear, and all the rest of it. Let's think about that. Automated PNP. Right. And then if we said no to the is PNP thing and has operation, and then if we give it a process operation, right? Now what does it want here? Well, okay. So, yeah, that makes more sense. So only in the case where it's an automated pick and place do you have a problem with the feeder name being used multiple times, which makes a lot more sense. Right. Okay. I think what I'm going to do is take a break here and then carry on with the implementation of all this. But I think this is all sort of going in the right direction right now. And then we can update the report generation and the phase overviews and all the rest of it to properly have the process operations defined in it. And I think this process operation should be called process operation kind. Rust people use the word kind where other people in other languages would use the word type. Yeah. It's good, guys. I like that. It's a better word. It's got the kind of operation. It may be that at some point the process gets updated to have a process operation which has a kind. But keeping this distinction where this kind is very simple makes more sense right now. Okay. All right, yeah. I'm going to leave that there, folks. I'm going to get some munchies. Right. So, just remember, folks, it's only software. How hard can it be? We'll find out on the next one.